Broadcasting from the Squad Car 37 studio. I'm your host and stunt guitarist, JP. You're tuned in to the Squad Car 37 show. The Squad Car 37 show is a series where we meet musicians and creators to discuss tips, tools, and the creative process. Today we chat music with guitar gurus Nili Brosh, Gretchen Menn, and Angela Petrilli. The Squad Car 37 show.
Squad Car 37, what's your 20? I'm on the scene.
Hello, good people, and welcome to the Squad Car 37 show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
good to be here.
How did you guys meet?
Nili and I met first on, well, I guess just kind of through social media. I think I just saw one of her videos and was like a combination of inspired and horribly intimidated. And so I was like, well, better to have a friend than somebody who makes you feel bad about yourself. So I just wrote her and I was like, you're amazing. Like, you know, I so like admire you or whatever. And then you wrote back something like unbelievably sweet. And then I feel like that week we just were texting about everything in the world. It's like we kind of became Insta buddies.
Insta buddies. I like that. Yeah, true.
And then Angela, we were sort of, I feel like tossed together on Instagram through, right? Was that
I
it?
think the Zeppelin thing brought us together.
Yeah.
Other people did.
Yeah. And then we met in person at a NAMM show. And then Nili and I were part of the first group of people to do Guitar Cloud Symposium with Jennifer Batten and Vicky Genfan. And then Nili, you know, had a tiny little gig, you know, with Danny Elfman that, you know, got her busy. And so I was like, I know just who we can call in. So Angela and Nili have both been part of Guitar Cloud Symposium too. So
Angela, you have several super popular online series, including Riff Rundown and Petrilli Picks. Can you tell us about how those came about?
As far as the Petrilli Picks thing, Norman's Rare Guitars isn't super far from me. And I went there one day and started playing guitar. They had some beautiful stuff there. I went and grabbed one and they're like, hey, you know, we film videos here. Would you like to come in? And, you know, if you have a band, bring your band here too. And you could play guitars and all that stuff. We'll put it on a YouTube channel. So I'm like, great. And started going there more often. And they asked, you know, would you like to do your own segment? Pick any guitars you want. Talk about it. That's where that started. So that was really lovely. Norm and the crew over there, they're like family to me. They're just really good people. And it's a beautiful platform too to meet other folks and musicians. I just did a gig on Sunday and there were a group of people that showed up because they watched those Petrilli Picks episodes. I like totally blew my mind. I was very, very humbled. It was very, very cool. And yeah, as far as the Riff Rundown, I work with the folks at Fishman and I've been working with them for a few years now. And they approached me about a year ago and asked if I wanted to do a weekly live stream show on YouTube. And they just said, you know what, just go ahead and record whatever you want and have fun with it. Take it wherever you want to go. So I love to teach just as much as I love to play and write and record and all that good stuff. And it just seemed like a beautiful fit.
I've seen both of those series, and being able to have access to those incredible guitars at Norm's must be just a privilege. And this weekend, I checked out the Riff Rundown. I popped in on Instagram, and you go live on a number of different channels.
I do,
and it was so good. You were demonstrating how to play Jolene.
Yeah, Ray LaMontagne. It's his song, his original tune. Zach Brown's covered it too. It's really, really beautiful, beautiful song. And yeah, it's fun to teach and like really break things down. I think, you know, and all of us here are teachers as well. And, you know, you can't play anything fast. You can't play slow. And I'm going to make a shirt that says that because I say it all the time. And you know, the three of us, I'm sure we do all the time too. You can't properly learn something fast and try and chase the clock. I tell my students, like, you can't chase the clock. Go slow.
So I listened to Jolene, and I'm going through his catalog of music, and he has a song called Roses and Cigarettes. And I wanted to see if there was any connection to your previous band name.
You would be absolutely correct. It is. My bandmate, Jenny, and I, that we're both huge Ray fans. And I remember thinking, even before I met her and we created the band, that would make a really cool band name. And I remember I brought it up to her and we were trying to come up with something. And I said, I think Roses and Cigarettes would be kind of cool. And it really illustrates us too as women. And I think it'd be a great band name. She's like, yep, I like it. And that was it. And that was the whole discussion. But yeah, you'd be correct. There is a correlation between the two things. So
Can I ask you about a Roses and Cigarettes song?
sure.
Echoes and Silence. I have to ask, are you singing any portion of this? Are you singing on the background or singing any harmony
Yes.
on that track?
Background harmony
Okay.
and all of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, there is an ooh at the beginning of the song, a vocal ooh right at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like the most perfect ooh I've ever heard. I don't know who that is, if it's you or the lead singer.
Jenny. That's all Jenny. Yeah. That was all Jenny.
Listen to this ooh. Seriously, go back and listen to this ooh. It's one of the greatest oohs ever. So your guitar comes in. She's singing the verse. The guitar is great. It's got this bluesy sort of southern style to it. It's perfect. The verse is a great setup. The chorus, the lead singer hits the high note, and then the vocal harmony comes in slightly delayed after that. It was so good.
That's
Very
one of my
cool
favorite
track.
ones we wrote together. So I'm glad you dig it too. Special one for sure. I love that song.
Gretchen, tell us about your band.
I have two active projects. So I have Zepparella, which I always say is my super fun day job, and that's honoring the music of Led Zeppelin with three of my favorite musicians. A fun fact is Nili is the only guitar player who's ever subbed for me in more than a decade in the project. And that was because my original band, that's just Gretchen Menn Trio, got a gig that I couldn't pass up on a night that that Zepparella was already set to play. So Zepparella honors Led Zeppelin. My trio plays my original instrumentals. And that's Zepparella's with Clementine on drums. She's the founder. Oh, here comes Ferdinand. I have two cats. They like to make on-screen appearances. Anna Christina, vocal. Holly West is the bass player. And then for my original band, it's Thomas Perry on drums and Anna Pfeiffer on bass.
When you're playing those Zepparella tracks, what tracks in particular does your audience react to? And which ones do you love playing? And are they the same?
The catalog of Zeppelin, there's so much great stuff. And so it's pretty easy to find songs that both the band loves playing and the audience enjoys hearing, I think. Dazed and Confused always goes over really well. There's so much going on in that one. And that one's really fun for me to play. I always say it's like a guitar player's amusement park. You get to do everything from the really quiet stuff to the heavy riff to, smacking a Les Paul with a violin bow. Lots of room for improvisation. There's so many great songs, really. And right now we're changing up the set list a little bit. So I just had my first in-person rehearsal with Anna Christina, the singer here. We're working on some stuff, the two of us, before the whole band gets together next week.
Abandon All Hope it's a masterclass in my opinion, in musical storytelling. It's a reflection of Dante's Inferno. In my ears, it's like chapters or acts. I mean, there were so many great songs on it. And like the opening song, Shadows, it's got a super catchy motif. It's got that guitar, violin, call and response, and a little bit of a Zeppelin nod, right? And just hauntingly beautiful background vocals. And then Limbo, the second track, there's this feeling of something isn't quite right. And then with The Tempest, I found it's hopeful, it's beautiful, it's positive. And then the bridge introduces this feeling of sort of a challenge or adversity with those descending chromatic notes. But then it has a hopeful ending to it. Bloodshed, by the way, that's a super fun track. Number 14, Beast, is sort of this slow rocking, super cool, with a crossroads slide to it and a backing organ. And then the last song, Grace, almost lets you know that hope isn't lost, right? So the title, Abandon All Hope, sounds like it could potentially be negative, but what is the feel that you're trying to convey in this piece of work?
Well, first of all, I just have to thank you for your incredible ears and attention. I mean, that's like how one dreams people will partake of a concept album. So thank you for that. The concept was not my own, although I am kind of a literature geek. It was brought to me by Michael Melenda, And it was after he had heard my first album, Hail Souls, and he had heard a couple of tracks that did incorporate some violin onto sort of rock trio format. And he said, what if we collaborate on this concept? And I was like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. I mean, I'm used to people pitching the like, you should really sing and you should do more pop stuff. So to have somebody pitch like a Dante concept album was like, I signed up for it like before he was even finished with his sentence. So he came up with the libretto, like the storyline, the adaptation of Dante. And that's why I always tell people, if they're going to get the download, the one on my website gives you like the full like album artwork that Max Crace did. And then, the storyline as well. So the idea is definitely based on Dante, but Michael Melenda's libretto is a little bit different. It's still, instead of Dante and Virgil, the poets, going through this kind of tour of the underworld, he has these kind of two spirits. And it essentially wraps up with saying, that humanity had become so lost, so depraved that that sort of the angels or the spirit world have just had abandoned humanity. And with the idea being that rather than humanity needing to find salvation elsewhere, it needed to seek its own redemption. So the idea of abandoning hope is not that things are hopeless, but it's about creating your own redemption, creating your own salvation, as opposed to seeking to find it through just hoping for it, but actually working for it.
I love that. That is super cool. And you are so right about the artwork. It's awesome. And there's two of you, right? There's sort of this dichotomy in the imagery, right? And
Right.
What does that symbolize from your perspective?
The essence of humanity, and then the essence of sort of the mentor, the guide.
I saw an interview with you from about 10 years ago where you listed Jennifer Batten as someone you highly respected as a guitarist and innovator. And at that point, you hadn't yet met Jennifer. So how has that changed?
Well, Nili and I had wanted to do some shows together for a while. And I guess it was like 2019, Nili calls me and she's like, can we please just book some shows? And I was like, all right, let's kind of put something together. And then it came up of like, maybe we need a third person on the bill. And we were like, well, we should at least just ask Jennifer. Like, I mean, it didn't have to be a female guitar player, but we're like, there could be something kind of cool about that. And then we're like, okay, who would be the most obvious first choice? And we're like, it's Jennifer. She's like the godmother. So we wrote her a note and she just like wrote right back and was like, yep, sure, I'm in. So we did a number of shows together, and we actually had more booked until, all shows were shut down. But I think that was sort of fresh in Jennifer's mind, so that when she decided to do this like online guitar camp, she reached out to Nili and me, and also Vicky Genfen, who she had done some shows with. But it's been amazing to get to work with her. She's an incredibly big-hearted person, very, very generous with students, very desirous of getting things right. Obviously a great player. We all know that.
In that interview, you referenced Flight of the Bumblebee, which is probably the first piece that I heard of Jennifer Batten's, and it's mind-blowing, right? Even still, yeah. It is mind-blowing. You are each contributors to the Guitar Cloud Symposium, is that right?
That's right.
Just like Gretchen said, she had this idea that during COVID, while there are no shows going on and everything, why not bring the whole weekend guitar camp type of situation to Zoom, and kind of get a group of good teachers together and do all kinds of different modules, different lessons, Q&As with the students. And it just became like this weekend extravaganza.
It seems like a wonderful program. And we talked earlier about like connecting with people online and through social media. And one of my music friends, his name is Andrew. And if it's okay, I'm going to play a quick clip.
Hey, this is Andrew Matthews, one of your students from the Guitar Cloud Symposium. I've been on GCS several times and taken courses from every one of you. Thank you so much. It's been a terrific learning experience every single time, and I'm putting it all to good use. So see you again soon.
Oh,
Love that. What?
That is
Really
so
cool.
awesome. That is really sweet. He's a great player.
Yeah,
too.
he's amazing.
He's awesome.
And
Yeah.
he's like 17. So
Yeah.
I wish I had my act so together.
Yeah.
Really sweet.
Yeah, he spoke very highly of all of you and the Guitar Cloud Symposium, so I wanted to just share that with you.
No, thanks.
Really sweet.
That's
Lovely
wonderful.
surprise.
Thank you.
So Nili,
You
this
got a big version.
this thing I bought the album. That talk about artwork. Man,
I know.
This
And that's
is
not
just,
even the deluxe version. The deluxe version that's coming out is like, it comes with a book, like an art book that's pretty much about the size of that vinyl, and it's all like hardcover and beautiful. And it's just the artwork is the book.
I wonder if
not-
it's this.
No, it's not.
Even,
it's not.
Oh wow, this is
No,
just the liner
it's
notes.
yeah, that's just the liner notes. But this deluxe version, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but there's like all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's kind of incredible.
I'm a big fan of Danny Elfman. It's the first thing that came to my mind. It's kind of silly. It's almost like Jack from Nightmare Before Christmas joined Nine Inch Nails and then had an orchestra and went on the road. It's just cool and different, and I just needed in my life. So how did that come about? How did that opportunity come about? Because you're playing on almost half of the songs on the album, aren't you?
Yeah, something like that. And I recorded, I got to do it in person with him. Luckily, we each got to go and kind of have our turn, even though it wasn't as a full band. And I didn't really know how much or how little I was in for, right? And he didn't really seem to, like, he had a set plan, and we just had a few days booked, and I went for 2.5 days and just got as much as possible recorded, and that's what he kept. And I was just like, okay, like, sure. But yeah, he seems happy with how it turned out. So I guess he didn't really need a plan. But yeah, you know what? You're not the first person to say that about Jack Skellington and Nine Inch Nails. Like, that's pretty much what it is, right? So I like that description very much.
That's great. I can understand being in the studio with him to kind of get that vibe, and there's probably no replacing that. And what a memorable experience. How did was there a call? Was there an email? Did you get a text? Like, how did it first start? Was there some interesting story to how this kicked off?
Kind of, yeah. It was a phone call. It was one of those things where my phone rang after 10 p.m. I can't even believe I was up, like on a random night. I just like passed out by then. But I happened to be up, and it was an unknown number, or a number I didn't know. And I literally did the thing where, like, I'm not going to pick it up. If it's a gig, they'll leave a message. And automatically thinking, like, it's never a gig, it's like, it's not going to be that. And then I listened to the voicemail, and it's like, hey, we're calling from Danny Elfman's studio. And I'm like, what? My jaw is on the floor and everything. And they were basically hiring like last band members for their Coachella show that's been postponed indefinitely. No, it's supposed to be in April. We'll see. But anyway, it was like, can you come audition for this thing? And they were concerned about my living in Vegas since they're in LA and everything. And I was the one that kind of had to assuage their fears and just basically be like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Like, I can be there in 4 hours. Just like, tell me when. And I went and auditioned, and I was super lucky that happened when it did, because I was the last band member to be hired, and it could have just as easily not happened, and everything shut down like really just a couple of weeks later. And if it weren't for that, this album would have never happened, because that wasn't really a part of the plan. It was just, especially when you listen to the lyrics and realize how much of it is current and, affected by or influenced by COVID and stuff. So that to me was really like my silver lining and my gift from this whole mess of 2020, that like, that would have never happened. And you can't thank the universe enough for that. So I can't complain.
And Nili, your own music is obviously fantastic. And you've a recent single last year, Estranged. Love the melody guitar. That particular song, it's got grooves and hooks all the way through. It's fun.
I tried not to overcomplicate it, especially with that song.
2019 Spectrum, it's again kind of a bit of a concept album also. So you've got a flow of all of these different flavors that are fantastic. And you do some really interesting things with tempo change and time signature changes, and especially, and I'll probably pronounce this wrong, Andalusian Fantasy.
That song features Gretchen Menn. We played like the hook melodies together, and there's some harmonies, and she played an amazing guitar solo. It's actually like my favorite solo on the album. And
well, Nili took a killer solo too, but I did one solo.
Half and half, yeah.
So my other note was acoustic guitar solo is epic on that one. So anyway. The next song, this Circus Wedding, the initial tempo and time signature change, I actually counted it out. It goes from like 115 down to 110. And it's also like, I want to say 8/8 and then 6/8. So it goes into the shuffle feel that was just super unexpected and cool and works.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of that album is to show that genre doesn't really matter, like all those things have something in common with the others, and they all share something, and whether that's a tempo change or a chord progression or a time signature or instrumentation, like it could be anything, but we tend to think of various styles of music as really far away from one another sometimes, and this album is kind of meant to show that it's really not, because you always have some sort of running theme with something similar, and so that's what made that sequence what it is.
Yeah, it worked really, really well. And by the time you get to Solace, that's the first track that sort of features the electric guitar.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that it took me like half an album to play distorted guitar. It's like, like some of my people who've been listening to my music for a long time, like heard that album for the first time. And if they did the right thing and listened from start to finish, they were just kind of like, what's going on over here? Like, I listened to the first song and I was like, huh. And then I listened to the second song and it's like, okay. And I listened to the third song and I'm like, okay. I'm like, where is it? I mean, I'm not saying I did it because I wanted to throw people for a loop, but that's kind of a happy additional result.
Yeah, it was well planned, well executed, super good album. If for those of you who haven't heard it, I would highly recommend checking that out. About 4 years ago, you and your friend Sarah and a well-behaved dog, I noticed, went on a road trip to San Francisco. And along the way, there was a lot of guitar solo singing, which guitar players know what this is, right? Guitar solo singing. Who were you going to meet, and what was that experience like?
So we were going to see Jason Becker up in the Bay Area, and my friend Sarah Benton, or Benton Byers now, she's a luthier, and she built this guitar that's based on his dad, Gary Becker's painting, one of his famous paintings. And if you know the painting, there's a guitar in the painting that she kind of asked, has there ever been a guitar like this? And I was like, I don't think so. I think it's just in this work of art. And she's like, I'm going to build that guitar and I'm going to give it to Jason. And I was like, wow, I can't believe no one's done that before. That's a great idea. Like, how cool, and she did the whole thing. And I told her, like, I'll try to make the connection and see if we can go up there and have you present the guitar to him. And so we got the chance to do that, which was amazing. And that's what you see in the video.
So Nili, during that experience, you played the guitar for Jason, right? And I'm sure with all of us, Jason Becker is a huge influence and inspiration. What was that like?
Well, I mean, luckily for me, it wasn't the first time that I had to play for him. So it wasn't quite as nerve-wracking as it had been the first time or two. But it's like you said, it's always Jason. It's always nerve-wracking. And it was always surprising to me because he's the one who pushes you to do it. I didn't expect that as much. I just kind of thought, like, is he really going to want to hear a bunch of, kids playing guitar? You know what I mean? So I'm always like, really? Okay. All right. If you asked, I can't say no. But that's what people don't realize, is that it's like he pushes you to do it.
Well, you can tell from the video that it really resonated with him, and what an amazing experience. Now, you've recently done some posts about supporting Jason's cause. Where should people go who would like to get involved?
Basically, for those of you who don't know, Jason Becker's had ALS for the last 30 odd years. And, the entire guitar community is pretty much trying to come together to help him never really have to worry about money and medical bills and all that kind of stuff. So a bunch of guitar players have donated guitars that they've signed and sold, and Jason's guitars are up for auction too, and then you can always donate any amount of money. So I think it's kind of going to be an ongoing thing, maybe even like indefinitely, and they've raised almost $500,000 so far, which is unbelievable. I hope it just keeps going. So you can just go to his website, jasonbecker.com, and they have info about the fundraiser more specifically.
Thanks for sharing that story, Nili. That was really awesome. So this is a segment I call Non-diatonic interrogations, which basically means there are a bunch of questions that don't relate to anything.
Non-diatonic interrogations.
I love that it looks like you guys understand what that means.
I love that.
That's fantastic. I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. First question. You'll know what to do. If the Lydian mode was ice cream, what flavor would it be?
I think it would be cherry vanilla, because major is kind of like the vanilla of the scales, but you add that sharp 4, you enhance it just a little bit, so you just like put the cherries in the vanilla ice cream.
I love that.
I would totally agree. I think that's a perfect way to describe it.
Oh,
That little sharp 4. The little sharp 4 is just getting in there.
Yeah, you gotta just, add a little spice.
I was going to say butter pecan for the same reason, which is like, at first you're like, oh, this is delicious. And then you're like, all right, this is maybe a little sweet. It's like, it's not just major, it's extra major.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What is your favorite TV show from the 80s or 90s?
I know it was the tail end of the 90s. I'm going to go with 6 Feet Under, 1999.
Ah, 6 Feet Under. Okay.
If I really had to pick one, because that's a lot, that's, scanning quite a few years, but I'm going to go with Married with Children.
Yes.
Solid.
Yes.
Solid.
Al Bundy. Yeah, totally. Gretchen, now I'm curious. You waited till the last. I'm very curious.
Okay, this sounds super lame, but I just don't. I don't watch much TV. I did watch Married with Children. That was funny. Other than The Office, I've never really watched. I know Arrested Development, but that's 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's close enough. Close enough.
Arrested Development, Curb Your Enthusiasm, or The Office, but I totally disregard your decade. So
I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David, 100%.
Oh, man. I can't wait for a COVID season. It's like, he's just going to be like fighting with Susie. Like, it was 6 feet. No, it wasn't 6 feet, you bold asshole. No, you're not standing 6 feet away. Like, it's just, it's going to be like that.
Pretty,
oh my gosh.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay. Here's one. F or E sharp?
what key are we in?
Yeah.
Are we in C sharp major?
I feel like I'm obligated to say E sharp. So. And Nili, I got to get you one of those shirts. You have to let me know your address. I'm sending you one.
Angela, you should tell the story, because not everybody knows it probably.
I wrote an article for Premier Guitar Magazine right before COVID, so February 2020. And I was talking about the key of F sharp, and there's an E sharp in it, because there's an E sharp in that key. So this guy emails me, not even kidding, and it was in all capitals, so he meant business. And he was mad. And he goes, E sharp isn't real. I've been to 3 different music teachers, and they all told me it's not real. It was really hard for me to not be smartass and just send him a photo of the key signature of F sharp and just circle the E sharp that's there. It took a lot for me not to do that initially. Wrote a very nice email, and then I brought this to my band because I knew they would get a huge kick out of this email. My bassist, Brett Grossman, and my keyboardist, Bobby Victor. Particularly Bobby got really upset. And within a minute, we discussed how it's real. And I posted this video on Instagram, and it just went nuts. And people were loving it. And I'm like, you know what? It's COVID, and this is it's a fun thing to chat about, a fun, music nerdy thing. So So I had some shirts made. I sold a bunch of shirts. It was just like it became this thing. It was so funny. But yeah, anyway, going back to this guy, after I wrote him a very nice email back, it still wasn't good enough for him. And he goes, well, I'm going to talk to my friends who have music degrees. I'm like, dude, like, have at it, my friend. Like, they're going to tell you exactly what I just did. But cool. And then he writes back and he's like, oh, yeah, you were right. I didn't think it was real because E sharp isn't on my tuner. I'm like, I'm just going to drop this mic.
I love it. I want to get one of those shirts.
I will.
Here is.
Let me know. Let me know your size. I'll send one over.
I'll buy one happily. So last question, then we'll wrap up. And this one might have a little trick question element to it. Who has the best hair? Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen, Nuno Betancourt, or Joe Satriani?
Nuno.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Nuno too. Nuno, hands down.
Yeah. It's like not even a question, right?
Okay,
I know
one with Nuno on that.
They're all amazing players, all amazing, heroic,
100%.
inspiring. Why we started playing guitar players, at least for me.
Yeah.
100%.
But this has nothing to do with anything, so.
Yeah, this is non-diatonic
Yeah,
interrogations.
But can I say how much I appreciated that you just asked that question?
I know. That's awesome.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for your time today and insights. Thanks for joining,
Thank you.
answering all these strange and wild questions.
Thank you.
You're delightful. Thank you for your thoughtful and hilarious questions.
Yes.
Letting us all hang with you.
The Squad Car 37 Show.
Squad car 37, what's your 20? I'm on the scene.
For me, actually, just so you know, I'm sorry, Angela. I'm very sorry. I believe it's F. But yeah. They'll make shirts that say F on them now.
That's fine. Go for it. Do it.
Oh, man.
Do it. It would be great. It would be
The battle of the enharmonics.
We should probably do that. You should have the F one. Angela, you have your E sharp, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, we could just get as many enharmonics as we want if we start adding double
You
flats.
can wear a G double flat shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Can't properly learn something fast and try and chase the clock. I tell my students, like, you can't chase the clock. Go slow. Have really set a good intention when you're, about to learn something and when you're in the process and the journey of learning. So.
I apologize. Is there a way to mute? Oh, yeah, I'm going to mute.
So, yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about a dog a little later on, Nili. I'm not sure if that's the same dog. Anyway, but this Saturday,